Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's complimentary webinar from ICMI, the top 3 trends of award-winning call centers, sponsored by Jabra, and featuring our 2012 Global Call Center of the Year Award winners. I'm Christina Hammerberg, Associate Editor and Community Manager for ICMI, and I will be your host today. Before we begin, let's do some housekeeping. You can participate in today's webinar by asking questions at any time during the presentation. Just type your question into the Ask a Question box at the bottom right of the window, and be sure to click the Submit button when you're through. We will be answering these questions during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Take a moment now to disable your pop-up blockers if they're on. Also, you can learn more about our speakers by clicking on the Speaker Bios button located below the presentation window. The slides will advance automatically throughout the event. If you like, you may also download a copy of the slides by clicking on the Download Slides button, also located below the presentation window. If at any time during this presentation you experience technical problems, you can access the webcast help guide by clicking the Help link below the media player. In addition, you can contact the Technical Support Helpline, and you'll find that number in the help guide. Our presenters today are Claudia Thorpe, Editorial Director for UK's Call Center Focus, and Deborah Wanker, Chief Operations Officer for Jabra North America. Welcome to both of you. We are also very honored today to have some of our Global Call Center of the Year Award winners for 2012. Please help me welcome Meg Neefsey, Vice President of Customer Service for American Water. American Water won our Silver Award in Technology this year. Let's also welcome Joanne Becker, Director, Canada for Allianz Global Assistance. Allianz earned 2 awards this year, the Silver Award for Quality and the Gold Global Call Center of the Year Award for Small to Medium Call Centers. Finally, we'll welcome Mary Beth Jenkins and Ann Palmerine from UPMC Health Plan. Mary Beth is the Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer, and Ann is Senior Director, Customer Engagement and Enrollment Services. UPMC Health Plan won our Gold Global Call Center of the Year Award for large call centers. Thank you all so much for being part of this presentation today. So now, without further ado, let's get on with our program, the top 3 trends of award-winning call centers. Claudia, if you're ready, we can begin.
Absolutely, I am. Thank you, Christina. And as Christina mentioned, we'll be hearing from all of the award winners a little bit later on. As Christina mentioned, I'm the Editorial Director for Call Center Focus in the UK, which means I'm responsible for content across our website, the Call Center Focus Conference, and the content elements of Call Center Expo here in the UK. But kind of what qualifies me, I think, for being on this webinar today is that I've been chair of judges for the European Call Center and Customer Service Awards for the past 8 years. So it's been fascinating for me to have my first in-depth look at some award winners from across the world. And I have to say, I've been very impressed with both the rigorous and comprehensive judging process and also with the caliber of the award winners, just phenomenal. But as I was reading the materials supplied by the winners, these award winners, I was struck by just how much they have in common and how each of them are really tackling the challenges faced by so many organizations today, and they're tackling them with innovation and real passion for customer service. So it's really impressive. But what is it that makes them award-winning? So I've just got a few minutes to try to pull out some of the things that these organizations are doing to ensure that they're delivering a global standard of excellence. And I've pulled these into 3 common threads, which are communication, engaged employees, and the right tools. So the first up is communication. And to be honest, I could have filled the whole segment that I have here on this topic alone because it was such an important thread that went through all of the entries. And when I say communication, I'm talking about communication between the organization and its customers, as well as the communication between the company and its employees. All of the winners, I thought it was very interesting, all of the winners here today mentioned transparency, openness and trust within their contact centre mission statements. And in fact, it does feature very prominently throughout their whole entries as well. I think close scrutiny by consumers has traditionally been feared, and businesses have kind of been happy to keep customers at an arm's length after the initial purchase. So it can seem quite a brave move to embrace consumers almost as business partners. But I think this is precisely what the best performing companies are doing. And the advent of open channels like social media are making it easier than ever to communicate with large numbers of customers all at the same time. And you can even encourage them to answer each other's queries using those channels. So I also want to highlight within communication the importance of feedback. Again, this was from the point of view of both customers and employees. Our award winners all talk about how important feedback is to their culture of openness and transparency. And they all have very efficient and effective tools for capturing comments and suggestions. But I think crucial to the effectiveness of those tools is that they're all used to kind of complete the cycle and communicate suggestions for changes that could improve the performance of the contact centre and, in fact, the whole company as a whole. Because we all know that the front line between employees and customers often offers the best management insight imaginable. But making sure that this insight is heard by the right people in an organisation is the real challenge. But if you can get that right, the dividends are huge, because as long as you communicate to either your customers or your employees the changes that have been made as a result of the feedback they've given, it's a really effective way of driving loyalty. Because they feel as though they've been heard, which is absolutely crucial for effective engagement. And I'll talk a little bit more about the importance of employee engagement in a moment. So a great deal of emphasis has been placed in recent years on reducing customer effort, with this being badged as a surefire route to customer loyalty. So it's no coincidence that our awards winners in their entries talk about making it as easy for customers as possible. And in fact, a high proportion of them are going so far as to prevent customers having to contact them at all by using proactive service to inform customers of any potential problems and how to avoid them or any changes that might affect them. And indeed, in our own research here in the UK, it's shown that consumers value reliability as an absolutely key factor in rating their experience with a company. So taking ownership of issues in a proactive way like this is an absolutely brilliant way to demonstrate that reliability. Okay, so the next trend that I want to talk about is the importance of an engaged workforce. Now, I know it's been said a lot that happy employees equal happy customers, and I think that really is borne out by these award winners. In addition to the voice of the customer, the voice of the employee can be clearly heard throughout their entry submissions, and it's really made very clear that they genuinely care about their staff. And because contact centre workers are the front line between customer and company, it's maybe surprising that they're so undervalued by so many organisations that still persists to this day, but not so with our award winners. It's very clear that the importance of their work is very effectively communicated to those employees on the front line. And it's also very clear that senior management understand the invaluable work that those frontline workers do every day for customers. Within the entries, they talked a lot about the impact of processes and technology in terms of their impact on staff. And I know that that's something that judges look for when they're looking at an entry, because it's so important that these frontline workers are given every opportunity to make each customer interaction count. And related to this is the frequent mention of employees getting the chance to test and give feedback on new ways of working or new technology that is being introduced into the centre. And this is vital for the effective implementation of any change. But it's amazing how few organisations do think to get the feedback from the people that will be using the new system or process. But our winners today clearly understand the need for employee input, and they frequently mention how they gauge impact on the end customer by asking employees what they think the impact is going to be. And I'll talk a little bit about having the right tools a little bit later on. So I also wanted to highlight training and coaching. So it maybe goes without saying that training is crucial in a contact centre environment, but what really struck me about the award winners was the breadth of types of training on offer. Not every individual learns in the same way, and just as you offer customers different ways of contacting you to suit them, it's just as important to offer employees different ways of learning. And we also know that customers are becoming increasingly intolerant of being transferred during the course of an interaction. So the best companies are making sure that their frontline teams really do have the expertise they need for each and every interaction that they may encounter. And this was something that came across very clearly with these award-winning entries. And another word that came up again and again, and I was really struck by how often it was used, was the word teamwork. And one of the award winners said in their entry, and I'm going to quote this, "We promote and support a diverse yet unified team. We work together to meet our common goals, holding each other accountable and challenging each other to reach the best decisions." Now, I think that very succinctly puts across the sentiment of all of the other award winners as well. That spirit of collaboration to achieve the very best results is a common theme, once again, throughout all the entries. And it's very clear that all these organisations offer a very supportive and professional environment for staff. And lastly, within employee engagement, I just want to touch on the importance of having fun. Now, we all know that call centre work can be tedious at times. It can be emotional and stressful at other times. And I think it's really vital that employees are given the opportunity to let off steam. And what was clear with these as well is that rather than just always using fun activities as incentives for your best performers, it's really important to include the whole team to engender a feeling of being part of a team and to give everyone the chance to celebrate successes. And many companies, I know in the UK as well, combine this need to have fun and let off steam with activities that give back to the community. And I know as a judge of our awards, it's always fantastic to hear about all the charitable and community activities of contact workers. We do hear a lot about that in the UK as well. And again, a beneficial side effect of this is that employees taking part in these activities, they often feel more loyal towards the company because they feel the company is making a contribution to a higher cause than just simply making money for shareholders. Okay, so just the last area I wanted to talk about that is common to all of our winners. I'm just going to touch on this before we get to the crux of the webinar and actually talk to our winners. This last area is that of having the right tools. Now, technology has played a key part in call centre life ever since the design of the first switch, and it's perhaps more important today than it ever has been, thanks to the consumerisation of technology. Customers are just so used to being able to converse with one another over a multitude of media, and they now expect to be able to interact with organisations in the same way. But the tricky thing is that they also expect companies to remember who they are, no matter how they've chosen to contact them. And this makes life hugely difficult for contact centres. And this is acknowledged among all of our award winners, but they also have a determination to do what's right for the customer. That came across very clearly. They're very determined that they want to make it as easy as possible for customers. And they're making it easier by allowing customers to contact them out of hours. They're giving customers the chance to serve themselves through online and telephony channels. They're creating toll-free numbers, and they're also introducing social media and other mobile contact channels to really make it easy for these customers to get in contact. In all my years of judging, I have never seen a set of winners that has as many measures of quality. It was quite amazing. Quality monitoring was just mentioned throughout these entries, and the measures that we're talking about here include scrutinising complaints, customer satisfaction surveys, consumer behaviour analytics, first call resolution, call recording, coaching. The list just is endless. It goes on and on. There really is a phenomenal level of quality monitoring among these organisations, and it's clear that it really is the primary driver of the culture of continuous improvement that's evident in these centres. So I think I'm running out of time a bit, but one final thing to mention is that even though the right technology is important, it doesn't need to be expensive. For example, giving employees the same or similar web-based systems that members of the public use and the customers use gives much better transparency for both customers and employees, and allows better communication between the two. And we'll also highlight that a number of centres have also designed in-house systems that are simple to use and can be tailored for the job in hand. Okay, so I think I've talked for long enough, and now we want to really hear from our award winners, who'll be able to tell us in much more detail about the secrets of their success. So I think the first topic that I really want to tackle is this element of trust. And I don't know if Meg or Joanne wants to take this one. Why do you think it's so important, guys, for customers to be able to trust a company that they buy products or services from?
So it's Meg, and I'm happy to respond to that.
Great.
Okay, so at American Water and each of our state subsidiary water companies, we take customer trust very seriously. First, we take into consideration that water is the only ingestible utility services that our customers receive. We're proud to deliver water that meets and/or surpasses state and federal quality guidelines for drinking water, and our customers know that they can rely on us for quality and reliable drinking water service. Yet we all must remember that the customer or consumer trust is more than just product quality. American Water works consistently to operate as a good steward of our environment, and we work to educate our customers about protecting our precious natural resources. Also, we use the transparency of our regulatory process to help our customers know that the service we provide is really a great value and that we take great care in managing our work in a fiscally responsible way. And finally, I would offer that excellent customer service is necessary in order to earn customers' trust. Representatives must be knowledgeable and must have the ability to solve issues for the customers.
Absolutely. It's absolutely key. Mary Beth and Anne, I mean, for UPMC, the element of trust must be a huge consideration for you guys.
It is huge, especially considering only once a year do they get to make the decision to be with us. So if you have something once a year and you only talk to them a couple times a year, if you break that trust in that interaction on the phone, it can be detrimental. You can lose a customer for a year or a lifetime. So our team is key in building that trust. When you think about health insurance and when people interact with their health insurance, literally most folks, the only time is when they call in when they've had an issue, and they need to be able to trust us to fix it. And our studies show that people who actually have a problem trust us even more because of the experience that they have with a representative who really fixed their problem.
And how do you communicate that to your frontline guys? I mean, is that something you kind of talk to them about that importance of trust?
We absolutely do. They're all trained right from the get-go. It really starts from the recruitment and hiring a team that has the spirit of service in their heart and that they want to do everything they can to help somebody and that they really care about them. And that's a big part of the trust is that somebody feels very cared about. And so you hire people with a passion, and then you train them so that they know everything they need to do to help those customers and really want to help them, and reward based on how well they're helping customers, not on how many calls they took or things like that.
Great. Yeah, I think it's really, really key. Joanne or Deborah, do you have anything to add on this topic of trust?
Yeah, for us too, we're a travel assistance service company, and so people will call us when they are in a medical emergency and they're traveling anywhere around the world, so they're not at home. So it's very valuable that they have trust in our associates when they're calling for help. And trust is part of our values. Our core values are caring, connected, proactive, and professional, and that all equals to trust. So it's very important that we incorporate that into our hiring as well. It's all built into our training, our customer service training, and then it's throughout everything that we do every day. It's built into our daily processes.
Fantastic. Okay, so I mean, another element that I was really interested to see that came across so strongly was this the importance of getting feedback, and that was both from customers and from employees. So I don't know if someone can give us some examples of how sort of customer feedback has been used to improve processes or to gain that insight. Again, Mary Beth and Anne, do you want to take this one?
Sure, we'd be happy to. So we use several different methods of feedback, and that's what's most important. And I think one of the core things that we do is we always are looking at how do we get better? What do we do to get better? We're never there. So we get feedback. We do regular live customer surveys a couple times a year that are very in-depth. And anybody that says we didn't solve it on one call or any kind of issue, we go back and do a big, deep dive. What happened? Where did it go wrong? What do we need to fix? And that's one of the things we do. One of the most important things we do, though, two more that are very important, is we have an after-call satisfaction survey. And we don't offer it to a percentage of our customers. We offer it to every customer who calls us. So, and they're automatically transferred into the after-call satisfaction survey. And at that time, we only ask 3 questions. We say, how was your experience? What's the knowledge level? And then also, did we resolve your call, yes or no? And they can leave a comment. And then I have a team, and anybody that said, no, we didn't resolve their call, we go back and do a deep dive on those and find out where did we go wrong and really go back and fix it. and get at the root cause. We also find areas we need to train or coach or anything. We also are able to use that feedback from customers to play beautiful comments for our members so that they can hear how well they did, and we even use it for an incentive program. And then the third thing that we do, out of the top three, is getting team member feedback. We regularly have focus groups with our team members asking them what can we do better for their employee experience, but also they're most interested in how they can make the customer experience better. And they always share lots of ideas, and then we help them. We let them be part of that process in implementing improvements, and they're very appreciative of things that we do for the customers that they've shared with us. And then we recognize team members that came up with great ideas. Mary Beth, do you have anything to add on customer feedback that you'd like to mention?
I think you did a great job, Ann.
You absolutely did, and that's great. It's really powerful, I think, giving employees that chance to sort of influence how processes and systems work. Meg, is American Water the same? Are you using customer feedback in those kind of ways?
Yes, we are, and I just think Ann did a great job and covered all of the core areas. But we use multiple measures of customer feedback. So we have outside surveys, and then we compare those results from what we call a quality survey. That's our actual field experience with the customer. So we measure the experience end to end. So from the customer calling in and actually making an appointment with us or scheduling a service with us, right through to the field personnel showing up at their house, taking care of that service, and then closing that contact. So we measure from a quality perspective our field personnel, our customer service representatives, and the end-to-end experience, as well as we do a customer satisfaction survey. And so we're looking, again, from the customer satisfaction perspective. Some of our customers may only call us when they set up service, and then we may never hear from them again for many, many years until they are moving out or until they have some type of a problem that they would like help with. And so in that case, or just information that they'd like to gather. So we reach out to all those customers to just measure the experience they've also had, as well as internally within the organization, because we're working for so many states, we actually have metrics within the center that we're measuring our people on, and then we partner with the states to show them that we're delivering. We try to help them identify trends and areas of opportunity where we could make recommendations for changes maybe in some of their processes. They also get customer feedback and work with us here at the CSC and offer opportunities for where we may coach some of our individuals and improve some of the experiences. So it's truly a partnership. We like to measure it from a variety of angles, and again, at the end of the day, it's all about improving the customer experience, and it's all about the journey of continuous improvement in the center.
It certainly is. That's great. Wow, that's a fantastic partnership you've got going there. So I just want to kind of stay with the employee side of things for a moment. So I was just wondering if you guys could just give us a picture of what it's like to be an employee in your centres. Joanne, maybe I can go to you.
Sure. Our employees, like, as I said, we're an emergency travel assistance company, and so they're dealing with different situations. Every call is a different situation, and so it can become very stressful at times. But we try to help keep them enjoying their job and very engaged in the company and what they're doing, because they're really here. They feel that they have accomplished and made a difference in a customer's call, that they've been able to help them in decision making and help them resolve some of the emergency situations that they're in. And what we do here as well to keep them engaged is we try to have activities throughout the day or during weeks or different months of the year, just to help them not feel like they're just tied to the phone and not be able to get away from that and taking a call after a call. So we streamline our little like for customer service week, we'll make sure that we have activities that the call center people on the phones can do at their desk at the same time as taking when they're on the phone, so they feel that they're part of their whole company and be involved in different activities and not just feel that they're the people on the phones. So it's really helped keep their engagement within the company as well.
Fantastic. I guess kind of what I wanted to touch on as well is how you guys kind of measure the performance of your employees in your centres. Mary Beth and Anne, can we go to you guys again?
Sure. Anne can speak in with much more of the granular detail, but I think looking at it from the executive level, and we made the corporate decision several years ago to really find a balance between productivity along with quality. And we equally rate first call resolution or one call resolution equally as high as calls per day, and we started really coming up with a total scorecard approach versus just are they taking enough calls, and really we try to go beyond measuring ASA and abandonment rate. And when we meet with staff, and it starts with even before they're hired, talking about our philosophy around service excellence and the role of a service engagement specialist, and we even have some that are called healthcare concierge staff, is we're really embracing you as a team member. Now there's a production component to it, obviously, but it's not on how many calls, it's the value of the call. And we've been able to show, our CFO and our financial analysts that if we can spend more time on one call and have less calls, it's a win-win. So, for us, it's really around, looking at quality and anticipating member needs. And so I don't know, Ann, if you have anything to add.
Yes, and new in the past year, one of the best things we've been able to do with our after-call satisfaction survey, we can measure our staff specifically on how they personally did from the voice of the customer. So we get overall measurements, but we also get individual measurements on how they did on their calls that we incorporate into their weekly coaching, but also into their annual performance review.
Wow. Yeah, great. That's really powerful as well, to be able to give them that kind of personalized feedback. Absolutely. So kind of related to that, I guess, and maybe you want to expand on this a little bit, Anne, is how important the kind of face-to-face coaching is within your contact center, and how you run those coaching sessions.
Absolutely. The coaching sessions are one of the most important things you can do for your teams, and being committed to doing them every week is extremely important because it shows you care. It says, I want to make time for you. I'm invested in you. I'm invested in your development, and I want to help you get better. And the more often you meet with somebody, the more they're going to be open to that feedback and want to change and want to do well.
Yeah, I just want to add, this is Mary Beth, real quickly. One of the things that Anne has been successful with her management team in implementing is, we have this formal quality department that reviews and monitors calls and provides quality formal feedback to our department that sits outside of the operational oversight umbrella. But one of the things that we found tremendously successful is if we do actual monitoring and listening of calls, and not only are we doing coaching from a supervisor manager level, but we're also doing some peer-to-peer coaching. So I think providing that feedback from their peers has been invaluable, so that they're able to provide, some coaching. So you have seasoned representatives giving that coaching to new representatives. It's really helped with, I think, the morale and the culture within the contact center.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, And does anyone else have anything to add to that, Meg or Joanne?
It's Meg. I would offer that we do similar. So we try to take the coaching down right to the individual reps. I know we have a team that also sits outside in our operations area that's actually dedicated to doing a lot of the quality scoring. We record all the calls. We push those calls once the scoring is done. We actually push those calls back out to our reps so that they can listen to the call. And when we sit with them and we coach with them, we actually ask them, is there anything that you think you could have done better? And if not, we have the conversations with them. So it's not going back on memory and things of that nature. And it really shows that we're committed not only from a training perspective, but from a coaching perspective, that we're providing the employees the feedback because we want them to be successful. And so I think that's a win-win for the organization, as well as we run what we call calibration sessions and things of that nature, so we make sure, because it is a team of people doing that, there's some consistency in the scoring ability. So again, I think all of these things play a big part into investing in your representatives so that they can be successful at their jobs.
Fantastic. Really great answer, Meg. That's great. Thank you for that. Guys, I could talk to you for many hours on these topics. I've got so many questions I'd like to ask, but I think we do need to move on because we want to hear from Jabra Wenger, who is Chief Operations Officer at Jabra. She's going to talk to us about one of the mega trends shaping the contact center market, social media. Hi, Jabra.
Hi, Claudia. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Let's get us set up here. Okay. So first of all, good day, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for the session. And Christina, thank you so much for hosting us. At Jabra, our business is headset solutions, so we're engaged with contact centers every day. We really see up close what's happening in the contact center industry. And the industry is going through some evolutionary changes, and it's almost easier to discuss what hasn't changed. When we at Jabra look at some of the macro trends of what's shaping the future of work in general, not just in contact centers, we see a number of things that, however, matter to us in the contact center space. So first of all, the Internet has changed everything. And this sounds ridiculously obvious, but it's a big enough point to reemphasize here in light of technology like unified communications, broadband, and cloud storage. These shifts in technology have enabled broader workplace trends to emerge, leading to things like the decline of location or geography as a constraint on hiring, locating, and retaining talent. And an office now can be wherever you have a laptop, a high-speed internet connection, and a headset. But customers have evolved as well, and they're technologically empowered. Smartphone penetration in the U.S. alone is 49.7%. And how many of you have abandoned the landline in your home? So I know I have, and that's really changing the way we communicate in many ways. But it's not just about the choice of device. Mobile phone users are expecting real-time help from us right now, whether they're on the line, while they're on the line with your agents. And they've found their voice. Customers are using things like Twitter and Facebook, Yelp, and 1,000 other social media options up to and including YouTube. It used to be that a bad experience meant that a disgruntled customer would tell 10 friends. Now they tell their 4,000 friends on Facebook. They blast it to their 40,000 followers on Twitter, and then maybe decide to post a video about their experience with your company on YouTube. We're in a unique position at Jabra to see these trends in action. And just in case you don't know us well, let me just give you a few quick facts that will help to get to know Jabra a little better and why we can be speaking about these trends. First, we've been leaders in global communications since before there was global communications. Jabra laid the first trans-Siberian telegraph lines connecting Europe to the Far East in the early 70s. And prior to that, the state of art communication was clipper ships, and that kind of puts things in perspective. we have kind of a unique history. You could say that we were born in Denmark, which is where the company started, and grew up between Copenhagen and Asia in our early years. But now we live and work in the U.S. and have a deep and long-standing relationship with many strategic partners in the telecommunications space. We're the leader in unified communications certified and optimized products and wireless headsets. And as such, we really see a lot being an endpoint that connects users to the technology platforms that drive communications. So against a backdrop of shifting expectations, rapidly evolving technology, and tight budgets, the contact center is changing. And the criteria that was once focused on hiring the forward-leaning, engaged listener and problem solver into your contact center has gotten that much more complex. Now we look for the highly articulate communicators who have high degrees of technical expertise, that are strong collaborators, can work under pressure, and can, if needed, instantly become company spokespeople in front of an audience of millions. That can significantly impact your brand. So what I'd like to do now is spend a few minutes and talk about what we see as 3 mega trends that are very specific to the contact center space. And they may be impacting your contact center now or maybe in the near future, items that you will need to be thinking about and strategizing for. So the first mega trend is the rise of the home-based agent. And over the last 10 years, interest in remote agent contact center models has really increased. For example, at the 2012 Remote Agent Summit that took place in February of this year, attendance increased by 30% over the prior year. Michelle Rowan of At-Home Customer Contacts, which hosts this summit, reported that their attendees indicated that their percentage of home agent population will double from the end of this year to the end of 2013, going from an estimated 18% to 36% of their customer contact population. So as companies continue to shift contact center capacity from traditional brick-and-mortar infrastructure to a remote agent model, they're doing that for a lot of reasons, including the ability to shift expenses and shift investment away from the fixed costs, as well as the strong flexibility that that model provides. The second mega trend that we see is an important one for all of us in the sense that it really reframes the contact center from its traditional cost center definition to one where it's seen as a strategic resource. And Claudia noted this as she was speaking earlier, that the contact center is really evolving from being problem resolution to brand representation, from a passive inbound asset to a hybrid inbound-outbound resource. And smart contact center professionals are engaging with their colleagues in sales and marketing and product management to not only share the rich data that comes into the contact center, but to partner with them on how to leverage that data to build the brand and to create advocates. But the megatrend that I want to spend the bulk of our time on today is this megatrend of social media. And again, earlier Claudia mentioned that social media is making it easier than ever to communicate. And it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because we all know it's important, but few companies are comfortable yet that they're doing it right. And I think the key here is to decide exactly how you want to participate in this space and then do a really good job at whatever degree you think is right for your company. But frankly, whatever you think is best, it's the contact center that's increasingly placed in the bullseye of this very complicated and tricky medium. For those of you who are on the webinar who are multitasking right now, this is where you might want to pay close attention because I've got some really interesting statistics to share with you. My guess is that most of you probably have a Facebook and or LinkedIn account. Many of you have probably used Yelp, and some of you may have Twitter accounts. Typically, when I ask for a show of hands in a face-to-face session, I rarely get more than about a third of the audience with a Twitter account. But here's some things that you should be aware of that probably many of your customers are engaged with. Right now, there are over 564 million active Twitter accounts. That's up from 281 million last year at this time and 112 million the year before. So it's doubling every year, and new accounts are growing at 1 million new accounts per day. Twitter was launched in 2006, and 3 years later, by 2009, there were 2 billion, that's billion with a B, there were 2 billion tweets per day, and in 2011, there were 33 billion tweets per day. So it's one of those medium that the adoption rate is just escalating, and it's something that increasingly is impacting the way we interface with customers. Brian Solis is of the Altimeter Group, and he's written widely on the subject of social media. I think he sums this up neatly and really saying that social media has more to do with social science than even technology, because while there are tools and technologies available to help us through this stream of customer conversations out there, at the end of the day, it's a cultural decision for companies to determine how they're comfortable interacting with customers and how they're going to engage in conversations with the customer using this medium. So what's the customer contact center supposed to be listening to? And to some degree, that depends on the customer and what their preferences are. I think, in the past we were concerned about the incoming phone call, and increasingly instant messaging, chat, and other forms of inbound messages are expected by our customers. But with the advent of social media, if you're like many companies and many brands, you're increasingly being expected by your customers to be ready to kind of jump in when a user anywhere in the country mentions you on Twitter and be ready in public to resolve their issues. I think what we're supposed to monitor depends on where the conversations are happening and how you're going to react to them in places like Facebook and Twitter and Yelp, and not to mention YouTube, which, by the way, is the second largest search engine, and there are about 100 hours of video being uploaded to YouTube every minute. There's also the question of ownership in companies for social media. Initially, it was really a tool used as a broadcast medium by marketing organizations, and for the most part, in many organizations, it still is. Marketing organizations used Facebook pages or Twitter accounts to blast out broadcast messages. Then typically in the evolution in many companies, legal gets involved because all of a sudden they realize that companies or that customers are talking to us and we're supposed to talk back to them. But I think increasingly what we're seeing is that it's falling to the contact center to take control of this function, at least as a first step in listening to the customer conversations. And listening is what we're trained to do in the contact center space. In many companies, the typical progression of social media management at the contact center level starts with simple monitoring of customer conversations, really relying on any of the standard social media tools that are available. But from monitoring, it typically evolves to the contact center managing any kind of disaster control or getting involved with customer conversations when it's apparent that something's gone wrong. So it's not just inbound monitoring to determine what the problem is, but outbound communication to help resolve the issue with the customer. Increasingly, there are some more sophisticated tools that start to integrate social media with the inbound calls. And at the highest level, that there's more of a cultural decision about how to proactively engage with customers. So not necessarily waiting for the customer to reach out to us through social media, but actively engaging in customer conversations with them through social media. At Dell, their social media hub is all about tracking conversations and turning them into usable feedback for the whole rest of the company. This quote that you can see on your screen is from Dell's former VP of Social Media and Community, and it describes the company's philosophy around setting up this contact center with the desire to create a feedback loop for continuous improvement. I think that a dedicated social media center is likely beyond what many companies are capable of or maybe even willing to do, but it certainly represents an aspirational goal for many of us. Then we need to consider capabilities. That certainly social media requires additional skills that our agents may or may not have. Obviously, they're very good listeners, but a private phone conversation is far different than a public exchange on a blog, on Facebook, or on Twitter. So any mistakes become much more highly visible. So essentially our agents have gone from being customer service representatives to being company representatives. And that's a big jump that has some risks associated with it. Often we haven't hired people for these kinds of skills, and we're also sort of learning as we go how to deal with these sorts of issues. And I think that's part of what makes social media such a complex subject as well. I'd like to share a quote from Frost & Sullivan here. I think you can agree that to some degree social media is forcing a convergence between customer service and marketing, particularly as a tool to gain insight into customers. And that's certainly what marketing wants, real-time feedback about the pulse of their market. So in terms of the implications from this megatrend, first of all, I think we need to ask ourselves, do we really have a social media strategy in place for the contact center? Do we know what the goals are? And identifying what level of the game that we're willing to play well is a really smart first step. Is your current strategy right for your brand? Are you trying to do too much, or are you playing a smaller role than your customers think you should? And lastly, that capabilities gap. Do you have the skill set in-house to do what you know you need to do? And if not, what can you do about it? So in conclusion, I'm sure that many of you are nodding your heads at much of what I'm saying. I don't think that any of these ideas are necessarily new, but hopefully they reinforce what you may be thinking or even thinking about. And if they've given you some new energy to pursue any of these concepts in your companies, I think that's a good thing. Before we close, I just want to share 3 quick thoughts. First, in most companies, technology is replacing so much at the low end. Customers are increasingly comfortable with helping themselves online for the low-lying answers. So when they're contacting your organization, your agents increasingly need to be those subject matter experts to respond to more complex questions. And therefore, the war for talent is really heating up. Secondly, as the war for talent heats up, it'll be aiming to hire and retain subject matter experts who can communicate professionally with customers and who can collaborate with other subject matter experts throughout the company who may be co-located with them or maybe across the country to solve complicated questions and on the first call. Customers want real-time fixes, and real-time requires subject matter expertise in knowing where to get answers and who to loop in. So if you do this well, you're going to have some very happy customers. If you don't do it so well, they'll happily tell 40,000 of their closest friends on Twitter. And then finally, smart companies are shifting the structures around them, whether we're talking about costs like eliminating facilities costs or tapping untapped talent like home-based agents, or finding brand equity where in the past the contact center may have been seen as a cost center. So I really appreciate your attention and time, and thank you so much for listening. And I'll turn it back over to Christine to moderate any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Those megatrends were really great, such food for thought for the industry. So now we've reached the Q&A portion of our program. We've had a lot of really great questions come in, and unfortunately we're getting close to the top of the hour. So I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to pose it out to all of our award winners on the call with us today. So the question said, Mary Beth talks about hiring people with a passion. What interview techniques are you using to ensure that passion during the hiring process? So I'm going to pose this question to all of our winners, maybe starting with Mary Beth, if you could just kind of give us a little overview of how you do that in your hiring process. Look for that passion.
Sure, we'd be happy to. One of the things that we do is we traditionally do not hire people who have call center experience. We look for some education, either an associate's degree or preferably a bachelor's degree. And then when we meet with them, the kind of questions we ask are, can you please tell me about a time, if we're hiring for our Medicare team, where if you've helped somebody who's elderly? And have them share a story, whether it's with about a grandmother or about a friend, it doesn't matter. It's just to hear how they interact with people and how they feel about people. We also ask how they feel about, when people are sick. What are things they do for people who are sick? And see if they have kind of that empathy and that passion and want to help people, because they're going to talk to a lot of people who are unhealthy. And really try and see how they're answering and how they reach out to people in general.
Great. Thank you, Mary Beth. Does anybody else want to weigh in? Maybe Joanne, do you have something to add?
Sure. We do very similar to what Mary Beth just mentioned. We look at, we use a lot of associate referrals as well to get some of our new hires, because our associates know exactly what our values are and the passion that's required. So they refer a lot of our new employees. They're mostly self-directed to be hired with us. But then during the interview process, we also do situational behavioral like questions, and that way asking the situation is the same as Mary Beth had mentioned, and how they respond to those answers and questions really can tell you that they're the right fit for our type of call center, because we're not a typical call center. We're not just taking orders. We're here to help people and, problem solve and try to work them through their situations that they're in.
Thank you. And Meg, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I would offer that, I think evaluating those shared experiences when you interview someone, it demonstrates the core behaviors that the organization is looking for their employees to hold. And and to be successful. And so I think we're using the similar approach. So we do some testing as well as we do interview the candidates, and then from there we try to extract that they really want to help our customers, because we really are in a service business. So it's important. It's I guess similar to being in the healthcare industry. Mm-hmm. The customers that are calling in are looking for you to solve whatever their issue is, to have that empathy and to do it. With we call it one touch and done, but if at all possible, to do it on that first contact. So I think those are all key things that have been brought out, and I would offer that we use most of the same ones.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for questions, but rest assured we will get to yours. We have we will be reaching out to everybody with some answers following this presentation. At this time, I would like to say that if you would like to keep in touch with Claudia or Jabra with any additional questions, their contact information is here, or you can reach out to me directly about questions for our winners, and I can put you in touch with them, or you can visit our Industry Awards page for more on our 2013 Global Call Center of the Year Awards, or our Spirit of Service Awards, where you can nominate members of your own team for their excellence, and that's going on right now. So please be sure to visit ICMI.com to find out about related training or upcoming webinars from ICMI, and we hope that you'll join us again soon. Shortly after today's live event, you can access this presentation on demand. This webcast is copyright 2012 by ICMI. The presentation materials are owned by or copyright, if that is the case, by ICMI, which is solely responsible for its content, and the individual speakers are solely responsible for their content and their opinions. So on behalf of our guests and our sponsor, Jabra, thank you for joining us today.